Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in. Welcome to the channel. If you haven't subscribed, please consider it. It's free. Hit the notification bell. You'll get notified as soon as I upload a video. Right, this is the first video for my channel apart from the introductory video about me, about my life, my carnivore journey, my health journey. So it began. So I'm Udo, by the way. I'm Udo, the carnivore. I was born in Germany, 1963. I'm 62 years old, or young if you want. And since I was 6 years old, I had asthma, really bad asthma. So, as you do with the doctors, I mean, in them days, there's not that much they can give you. I don't know what they gave me at 6 years old. I really don't know. I can roughly about remember when I was 13, they had one of them steroid inhalers, that powder, Mentolin or something it's called, and it was okay, yeah. But until you get a little bit moisture in there, and it stopped it for the powder to getting. You couldn't inhale the powder because it was slightly damp. Oh, it was a nightmare sometimes. So anyway, and asthma was really bad. Sometimes I couldn't take 20 steps before I had to stop and so we fought through. And of course, as a youngster, as a teenager, started smoking. But as I grew older a little bit, the asthma got better as such. And then when I was about 18, they gave me the blue inhaler and the brown steroid inhaler. And that worked pretty well. I was happy. I still was smoking and drinking and all sorts. So it was under control. See it that way. I used the blue inhaler maybe 2-3 times a week if I felt there's an attack coming on. And I used 2 puffs a day of the brown inhaler. Anyway, life carried on. And so rolling forward, there was nothing really in between there and say 2019, about 6 years ago. I was 56. We lived here down near London for the best part of 20 years. Asthma was still on the control, same, but I had to use the blue inhaler more often. And then they increased the brown inhaler to 3 puffs a day. Anyway, towards the end of 2019, my breathing got really, really bad. Also, I put on weight. And I had a back injury then caused by myself, stupidity. But apart from that reason, apart from a bit of pain in the joints. So anyway, just before we moved up here to Scotland, I went to see asthma nurse. My breathing got really, really downhill. And I had to some weeks I had to use 2 to 3 blue inhalers in a whole week. And they said, oh, up to the steroid, the brown one, to 4 puffs a day. Alright. They should know better. Anyway, before we moved up here to Scotland, I saw the asthma nurse, and she said, "I think you got chronic COPD, irreversible." Well, that came as a shock to me, and I said, "You see, you better give up smoking." I said, "There's no point of giving up smoking now, because that's virtually a death sentence. You might go 4 years if that is the case." But at that point, they haven't done a test. They do a sort of test to test your lungs. Anyway, then the end of 2019, we moved up here to Scotland, and after 2 weeks, I had a really bad lung infection. So I went to the doctor up here, and she said, let's do an x-ray, and she looked at me really suspicious. So I think, well, she probably said she thinks that they're going to find something. And anyway, I went back a week later, still on the same medication, but in the meanwhile, before the next appointment, what I haven't mentioned is my headaches. Even down in England for years, every day I had headaches. So anyway, yeah, headaches, and then all of a sudden they developed near enough blackouts where I thought, oh, I'm gonna pass out any second. I couldn't put any correlation to what caused it at that point. Well, I couldn't point any fingers to anything at that point. So anyway, then I saw the doctor again, and she said, he goes, "You got a result from the x-ray?" And I said, "Oh my god." She said, "It's fine, there's nothing wrong, there's nothing there." I said, "Oh, okay." So she said, "Now we're going to make an appointment with the asthma nurse and do a proper test with it to see if you have COPD or not." I said, "Great." So when I spoke to her about my headaches and the black or near enough blackouts, so we decided we stopped the brown inhaler. She gave me some more blue ones, and she described me a different inhaler, a lighter version or a new type of steroid, where she said only take 1 puff a day. I said, alright. So made an appointment with the asthma nurse, and she took out that test kit where they measure your lung capacity, how many liters of air you can inhale and exhale. We done it. So she looked at the results, and she said, "There's nothing wrong with your lungs. Whatever breathing problem you have is not coming from your lungs." And so I said, "Wow!" I was gobsmacked. So you better see the doctor again. She probably can explain it better than I can. I said, okay. So I made another appointment with the doctor for the following week, and so she actually sat down with me for 20 minutes. She said, "I haven't got another appointment. Let's sit down and talk." So I talked about your history and everything, and so she said, "Okay, I will just prescribe you some antihistamine." She said that breathing problem not only can come from your lungs, it could come up from higher up, which then constricts your breathing. I said, "Oh, okay." And so, but from that day, I stopped smoking. I said to the doctor, "I will stop smoking. That's the last call before anything serious really is going to happen." So I stopped smoking and went into vaping. She said it's a good alternative. It's not the best, but let's see how it goes. So I started vaping and stopped smoking without any problems, because I knew something going to give sooner or later. So I think at that time I still was blessed that they didn't find anything serious. So the lung infection went, and took some antihistamine every day. In the end I got the 24-hour one, and started that new inhaler, that lighter version of the steroid. And gradually everything starts to improve. So I'm stopped smoking. I think made a big contribution to it. The headaches disappeared. I didn't have any more near blackouts. So all started going positive. I said, great. After 3 weeks, my breathing was so good. It hasn't been as good as it was then. So anyway, we moved away from the area, and so I still used the prescription and continued with my life. And I was happy. I think I was blessed that nothing serious would happen, and my breathing improved. So till about 3-4 years ago. It's 2025 now, something about 2022, something like that. I put on weight all of a sudden. I always was around about 68 kilograms. All of a sudden I put on weight and weight and weight, and as soon as I know, I was 77. I said, what's going on here? I said, I know I love food. At that time, I loved food. I was also in the influence, keep your cholesterol down, keep your saturated fat down. I didn't believe the narrative really about red meat. I was still eating red meat. Maybe not as often, but I still was eating red meat. So, was really just standard diet, standard British diet, lots of carb, lots of sugar. So I put on weight, tremendous, very in a short period of time. I said, well, something's not right here. So I met one of my wife's friends, and she said, oh look, I found that new diet. It's called keto diet. I said, all right, what's this all about? I said, you only allowed so many carbs, and the rest just eat meat. Oh yeah, I love eating meat. And she said, don't worry about saturated fat, that's good for you. Okay, that sounds even better to me. So I started researching it, and I said, oh yeah, that looks good. Still making you sweet. So I went home, done some research. I said, sounds good, give it a go. And bought all the exotic ingredients, all these different flours, tapioca, or whatever that's flour called, almond flour, and all this, and made all this, made that, and I said, it's nice, but it's still sweet. It's still sweet. I still had the cravings for sweetness, even though there were no calories or no carbs in there, or no sugar in there. I don't know. It tastes a bit artificial to me, and a lot of effort to make all these meals and all this, and then all these vegetables and all this bloating, and I said, So I've done it for about 2 weeks, 2, 3, or what, even a month, and I said, no, I can't really hack this. So anyway, I fell back to the normal diet, back to pizzas and ice cream and this. It's the food we love. Yeah, everybody's working into this, right? Crisps and chips and all this, and deep fried and all that. And so, but then I said, no, I don't feel right. I don't feel like I used to. Something is up. So I started diving deeper. Went down the rabbit hole. Started researching. And I came across a person called Paul Mason. He's from Australia, and his channel is called Low Carb Down Under. And I watched some of his videos, and I was slapped in the face. I said, well, what's going on here? And he says, the higher your LDL, the longer you live, the more saturated fat you eat, the higher you live, the longer you live, sorry. I said, what's going on here? So I was a bit gobsmacked at that moment, so I had to pause with that for a moment to trying to digest all this. The mainstream saying this, the food industry saying this, the farmer saying this, that red meat is bad for you, your cholesterol needs to come down, it's bad for you, and they tried me put on statin, and so I was on statin for a while, and so now this guy is saying the total opposite. I said, what's going on here? So I've done some more research, and I came across holistic Dr. Stan Ekberg, and I watched some of his videos about weight loss, and then start to say explaining about insulin resistance, and all of a sudden the penny dropped. So at that point I didn't find, I couldn't warrant to go to the doctor and say, well, look, I wasn't really fat enough. Okay, I put on weight, but I wasn't really fat. I had like what's called a beer belly. So, and he explained the mechanism into details. Very, very easy to understand mechanisms, how your body is working. And I said, oh, that's interesting. So basically he explained insulin resistance and how you can get around it naturally, or basically reduce it or even cure it. Yeah. So he suggested ketogenic diet, and I said, well, I've been down that road and I didn't really like it. So, but now I learned about the mechanism. So I dived a bit deeper, and then I came across a guy, I can't recall his name. He talked about carnivore diet. He said, that's how we're supposed to eat. Meat. Nothing but meat. I said, that's interesting. So I had to look into more in the carnivore diet. So, and I learned a little bit about it. Well, I should have learned a lot about it before I started it. So I began the journey as a carnivore diet. So, and of course I went head over heels, and also that Stan Ekberg, before he suggested intermittent fasting. That sounded like good to me as well. That's very beneficial. So anyway, so I started carnivore, and straight away intermittent fasting. But I think I should have done a bit more research. So, but that guy, like Dr. Ken Berry and some Sheffy and all the other guys who explain the carnivore diet, and I should have listened to more what not to do. Anyway, I started head over heels because I've done keto before. I could restrict carbs and sugars, no problem. So, but this one was only the sweetness with it, and the cravings for something real. So anyway, I started it with intermittent fasting. Okay, what happened? Energy crash. Not one, not two, but three. Lesson learned. So I should have just eat when I was hungry, not trying when I wanted to eat. was the big difference. Anyway, I learned a lesson, and no harm done. And I done it solid for 4 months, and all the weight came off. My joint pain, which I had occasionally, disappeared. Brain fog lifted. I said, whoa, that is great. But what actually happened then after nearly 4 months is because I had always a good blood pressure, my blood pressure dropped like a stone. And I got heart racing like mad and things like that. All sorts of things going on there. And I said, well, what the heck? Even though I was eating a really, really good amount of salt and electrolytes, but for some reason I said, no, I need to go back onto carbs. So I'm back into carbs, and everything normalized. So, but I lost colossal 10 kilograms of weight in 4 months. And I said, wow, we got a result here. I feel better. So I'm on the right track now. I just need to find out what actually happened to my blood pressure. But it's tricky because normally if you got a high blood pressure, it's great with carnivore, you just normalize it. But I had a near enough perfect blood pressure before, and now it dropped to the floor. It was around about 80 to 60, something like that. And then my heart started compensating for it with heart racing and palpitations. So anyway, so the latest research I found, it's you just gotta push through it, because your body will adjust eventually. So long you get your good amount of electrolytes and your salt and whatever, it will normalize eventually. Maybe I panicked too early. So anyway, so I went back to carbs a little bit, and carbs a little bit more and more. So I fell back on the wagon. Of course, I felt great. I said, well yeah, let's go back to the pizzas. Not too much ice cream, but more like. But I selected now the carbs I was eating, instead of really of the highly processed food. So I had some good quality bread, like with ancient grains and things like that. It's still carbs, but I think the chains are slightly different. Anyway, so I carried on for a while, and I still felt great, but then after a while I still start feeling not so great again. I said, here we go again. So I went back to carnivore, about 85% carnivore, and then see how my heart is going to react. And it was fine. This was good. That was quite like a couple of years. Everything's fine. I lost some more weight. So I started off with 77, and now the latest one, well, I have to come to the latest one in a minute. Anyway, so it was quite good. I was doing intermittent fasting. I was doing some prolonged fasting, 24 hours, 36 up to 48. I couldn't manage the 72 at that point. So I was feeling great. I mean, pain still disappearing, and also in the meanwhile I had some blood tests done, some A1C, which came at pre-diabetic at that point. I probably was diabetic before that, but it came out at pre-diabetic. It was just on the edge. It was 6.1, but it can take a long time. Depends, because I've been abusing my body for centuries. Basically, alcohol, smoking, and all this rubbish food. Anyway, so I said to Yasmin that she's really down the path with ketogenic and she understands all this, and it was great, really nice talking to her. So we decided to do another one in 6 months' time, which probably next month I will call her to make another appointment. So anyway, I went down. The latest weight I had now was 59 kilograms, and that was after I managed now a 72-hour fast. And currently I'm on a 97-98% carnivore, not 100% yet. I'm trying to work towards it. So, but it was beginning last week. I was planning to do a 72-hour in October. So by beginning last week, all of a sudden I had something to eat and about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then so I'm eating about maybe once or twice a day. That's enough for me. And then the next day I didn't feel hungry. I said, okay. So I went to 24 hours with a blink of an eye. But then I felt hungry. Something, my stomach said, come on, I'm expecting something by now. So when I said, well, what, let's go a little bit further. So, but after you get the 24 hours out of the way and push it a bit further, your hunger disappears. You're telling your body, no, you can't have any. So I managed the end. I managed a 72-hour fast, my first one ever. Yeah, get it under the belt. And then I started off with just with beef broth or beef stock. And then half an hour later, I had some cheese, some eggs, some ham. So yeah, I would love to eat steak every day, 2-3 steaks every day, but I can't afford it. It's here in the UK, it's ridiculous, the prices. So I managed with what I got. So that's my current situation. I'm about 98% carnivore, and there's a few carbs hidden there and there on purpose, just to see how my heart is reacting, and the moment it's stable. I mean, I had one slight heart racing after I finished the 72-hour fast. That was the next night, but I fell asleep. So it was racing a little bit, but I fell asleep, so it wasn't probably not that fast. So anyway, because I think I probably felt it more because my stomach was virtually empty. There was only a little bit in now what I was eating. So this is where I'm at now, and one of the reasons why I want to hit the 72-hour mark is as you get older, miles from I think about 50 upwards, or even 50 upwards, your stem cells start going dormant. Hibernate. So, but after 72-hour fast, I learned you reactivate them. You waking them up, and it would last for about 6 weeks, and that's for the deep healing. But for this, we can talk some separate videos about fasting and goals and all this. But there's another point I want to point out now to finish this video off is my parents. But both my parents have passed away a few years back. My mother, she had dementia. She had severe back problems. She was in a wheelchair. She couldn't speak anymore. She couldn't recognize anymore. She perished with that. My father passed away a few years later. He had a heart attack when he was 46, but that was caused due to stress. because my father and mother divorced, so that was caused through stress. Stress. And then he had developed Parkinson's disease and prostate cancer. So they managed to keep the prostate cancer under control, but eventually the Parkinson's disease got so strong, he's probably passed away from that. So now I've been thinking that I know what my father and my mother ate. They ate the German standard diet, which is very similar to the British or the Scottish or the other diets, American standard diet. They're all virtually identical. High carb, high sugar, medium protein, low fat. That's basically it. So if I now would carry on with that diet, there's a good chance I'm going to end up or similar like they did with all these metabolic illnesses, diseases. So, and that's one more reason, because about a couple of years ago I felt that my short-term memory start fading. Okay, the saying as you go older it will do it, but it was a bit more than that. So, and I thought, well, that's a hint. So, but I think with the carnivore diet that cleared up a little bit, or stopped it as such. That's why I might, when I speak, sometimes there's a bit hesitant. I have to think a bit. So, but there's a good chance that I'm going to go down the same route. One of them will going to get me sooner or later. I know we all gotta die by the end of the day. That's inevitable, but it's the lifestyle until we go. Can we still talk? Can we still walk? Can we run? Can we do things? You're gonna be in a wheelchair or not? There's all sorts of things is what can happen on the path to it before we go. So I'd rather play a game with my son outside or take the dog for a walk and things. I'd rather than do that than sit in a wheelchair like a vegetable. Like my mother, she was sitting in the wheelchair like a vegetable. So, and I think carnivore diet will enable me to do that. Will give me the lifestyle I need until I hit the bucket. So, with that bear in mind, so I'm not going to worry about it. I know I'm gonna snuffle one day anyway, but I'm not worrying about cancer. I'm not worrying about type 2 diabetes. I'm not worrying about all the other diseases, because I'm on the diet what I should be on there, what everybody should be on, and it will not give me any sleepless nights. It doesn't mean I won't get it. No, it does. There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee in anything in life. But I don't worry about it. So, at the moment, I'm mobile. I'm fit. I'm doing mountain biking. I'm doing all this. My breathing has never been so good in my life. Yeah. So, that speaks for something. Yeah. Well, we can rumble on for hours here, but some of the topics we leave for individual video sessions. We can talk about, or if you got any questions, leave them in the comment. If you have scrutiny, leave them in the comment. I'm always open for discussion, or say I welcome someone else's story. If you want to talk about your story, maybe we can do something to do an interview, things like that. So that's why YouTube is so great. There's lots of things we can do. Yeah. Just to get the word out, maybe trying to help other people. Maybe someone connects with my story. Maybe there's something similar. But if we get other stories, then maybe people can connect to them. So there's no one, there's not one story for everyone. Everybody has a story, so maybe we can get some more on board of the stories. So I hope you find that useful. Maybe you found it boring. I don't care. It's my story. You have a story. I tell my story. I want to tell my story because maybe it helps someone else. I don't want to keep my story to myself. So, well, I think that's the end for today. And then we go into more other topics. I think one of the first topics going to be ancestral nutrition. I think that's be one of the key ones for people to understand where we come from and why we need to eat carnivore. Anyway, thank you for listening, and we see you at the next episode. Bye.